The sky above Renthis 4 was no longer blue. It burned with fire and smoke. The alien outpost, once a peaceful research base, was now a broken battlefield. Towers had fallen. Streets were filled with wreckage. The air smelled of ash and fear. Captain Varn stood inside the last standing command center. His silver skin was covered in cuts, and his breathing was sharp. Around him, screens flickered, some showing nothing but static. Others showed enemy ships surrounding the planet like a hungry pack. "We can't hold them," a young officer said, voice shaking. "They're everywhere." Varn nodded slowly. "Send the last call for help." "But we already called." "The council." They didn't respond. No one did. "Send it again," Varn ordered. "Use all frequencies. Someone has to hear." The signal was sent loud, desperate, and final. Far across the galaxy. Deep in a shadowed sector, humans called. "The Rift," a ship received the call. It was not a council ship. It did not belong to any alliance. It was silent, black, and dangerous. Inside, Commander Holt stood up from his chair. He read the signal once. Then again. "They're calling for help," he said. His second in command. A tall woman with dark eyes looked up. "Do we answer?" "Yes," Holt replied. "But we don't just answer. We drop in hard." Back on Renthis 4, Captain Varn waited. He thought of surrender, of saving what little remained. But then the sensors beeped. Something was entering the atmosphere. "Back up?" one officer said. "No," Varn whispered, confused. "These are unknown drop pods." From the skies, 12 long black pods shot down like meteors. They hit the ground with thunder. No message, no logo, just silence. Everyone stared. Even the enemy paused. The pods opened slowly, steam rising. From inside stepped figures, humanoid, armored, and silent. They wore black suits that shimmered like liquid metal. Their helmets hid their faces. They moved as one, without fear, without hesitation. "Are they human?" someone asked. "I don't know," Varn answered. "But they're not here to talk." The first of the creatures, the enemies that had nearly destroyed the base, charged forward. They rushed toward the newcomers with sharp claws and energy weapons. But the humans didn't flinch. The lead soldier lifted his arm. A pulse of energy shot out. The ground cracked beneath the enemy's feet. Then the humans moved fast, like shadows with purpose. They tore through the attackers with precision. No wasted motion. Every bullet, every strike was deadly. One human took down 4 enemies in 10 seconds. Another ripped through a tank with her bare hands. The alien screamed, not in rage, but in fear. Inside the command center, Varn and his officers watched in silence. "They fight like predators," someone whispered. "No," Varn said. "They fight like something worse." The battle outside turned. The attackers, who had never lost a fight, were now retreating. The humans didn't chase. They stood still, watching, as if calculating their next move. Then one of them turned and looked directly at the outpost's cameras. Though the helmet hid the face, the message was clear. You are not alone. In the hours that followed, more pods landed. Not many, just enough. The humans didn't speak. They didn't request orders. They simply acted. They repaired defenses, replaced shields, gave alien survivors water and supplies. But they never removed their helmets. No names, no ranks, just action. By nightfall, the enemy had left orbit. The stars were quiet again, but the memory of what had arrived would stay. Captain Varn stood outside the ruined gate. He watched the strange warriors stand guard. One of them noticed him and gave a slight nod. Varn nodded back. He didn't know what they were. He didn't know if they were soldiers, machines, or monsters. But one thing was clear. The backup had failed, but something else had come. Something from Earth, something terrifying. And the battlefield now belonged to them. Morning on Renthis 4 came with no sun. The sky was still gray from smoke, but the air was quiet. For the first time in days, no enemy ships circled above. No weapons fired. Just silence and the strange humans standing watch over the broken base. Captain Varn stood at the edge of the landing field, staring at the black pods that had arrived the night before. Each one had opened like a coffin. Each one had released. A soldier who fought like a monster. They were still here, watching, waiting. "Commander," one officer said carefully. "Should we speak to them?" Varn didn't answer right away. He watched as two of the humans walked past burned-out vehicles, their boots leaving heavy marks in the ash. They carried weapons larger than anything Varn's people had ever seen. Their armor hummed softly, like it was alive. "They're not here to talk," Varn finally said. "They're here for war." In a crater outside the base, the enemy survivors were hiding. Their commander, a large creature with 4 arms and red scales, slammed his fist into the ground. "What are they?" He growled. One of his soldiers replied, trembling. "Humans from Earth." "Lies. I've fought humans before. They bleed, they scream. These things didn't even speak." "They're different," the soldier said. "Deathworlders." The word hung heavy in the air, not back at the base. Something new arrived. A single ship, sleek, black, shaped like a spear, descended slowly above the ruins. It made no sound. As it touched down, the ground vibrated. The human soldiers all turned toward it, standing still like statues. Captain Varn and his officers watched from a distance. "More of them?" someone asked. "I think," Varn replied. "This is their command ship." The side of the vessel opened. A ramp extended. Out walked one figure taller than the others, wearing armor that glowed faint red at the edges. This one removed their helmet. It was a human. A man. His face was scarred but calm. His eyes scanned everything like a hunter. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold. "You called for help," he said. Varn stepped forward. "We did, but we didn't expect. You expected diplomats. You expected the council. Maybe robots or drones. But they failed you." "Yes," Varn said honestly. "They did," the human nodded. "We are the second wave. We don't negotiate. We don't broadcast our arrival. We don't ask questions." "Then what do you do?" Varn asked. The human's answer was simple. "We finish the war." Inside the command center, the human commander stood before the alien maps. He studied the positions of the enemy, the damage to the outpost, and the areas still held by the invaders. "Your people fought well," he said, "but you're not built for this kind of enemy." Varn stepped beside him. "And you are?" The human pointed to a blinking red zone. "They're regrouping here. They'll strike again within 1 day." "We won't survive a second wave," Varn admitted. "You won't have to." Later that day, the humans moved out. They didn't take vehicles. They ran, fast, silent, as if they were chasing something. The alien scouts who spotted them didn't report back. They vanished. By nightfall, the humans returned blood on their armor, but not a scratch on their bodies. They didn't speak. They just stood by the gates. Again, Varn had never seen warriors like this. They weren't just soldiers. They were trained to kill, built to survive, and chosen for something darker. Rumors spread among Varn's people. Some said these humans were not born on Earth, but grown on dead moons. Some said their blood had been changed. Some believed they were more beast than man. Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain. When Earth sent help, it didn't send peacekeepers. It sent the beasts of war. Asterisk. The next morning came fast, and with it, chaos. From deep in the valley beyond Renthis 4's ridges, the enemy returned. hundreds of them. Ships cut across the sky like blades, while ground forces marched with heavy weapons and armored crawlers. Second wave had come. Inside the alien command center, alarms screamed again. Officers ran to positions, voices filled with panic. "We can't face that again," one shouted. "They'll crush us this time," another said. But Captain Varn didn't move. He just looked at the feed from the southern ridge, where Earth's soldiers stood, already in place. No one had told them. No orders had been given, but they knew. On the ridge, the human warriors stared down the enemy force. There were only 14 of them, just 14. They didn't talk, didn't plan. They adjusted their weapons. Some removed gloves. One knelt and dipped their hand into the dirt like it meant something. Then, without a signal, they began to move. They ran straight into the storm. The enemy expected resistance. They did not expect this. The humans moved like shadows. They ducked under fire, slid between armored legs, leapt on vehicles like hunters leaping onto prey. A giant crawler tank turned its barrel toward one of them, but before it could fire, the human had already climbed its side and placed a charge. One explosion. One burning wreck. Another enemy soldier fired a full burst at close range. The bullets hit the human square in the chest, but the armor sparked, absorbed, and the human kept walking, slowly, without a word. Then he threw a knife. The blade sank into the enemy's head like it was paper. Back at the command center, Varn and his officers watched through drones. "They don't speak," someone whispered. "They don't yell. They don't even signal each other. They don't need." "T.O.," Varn said. "This is what they were made for." The battle raged. One human used a thin wire to trap a group of enemies. Another lifted an enemy twice her size and slammed it into a crawler. A third broke into a command tent and disabled their targeting system using only a blade and speed. There were no speeches, no calls for surrender, just war. And with every enemy who fell, fear spread faster. By mid-battle, the enemy had stopped advancing. Some tried to retreat. Some even dropped their weapons. But Earth's beasts didn't stop. They hunted. An enemy commander, hiding behind a broken walker, watched it all through binoculars. "These are not soldiers," he muttered. "They are something else." His aide whispered, "Deathworlders." "Then we must escape," the commander snapped. "Call for evacuation." "It's too late," the aide replied. "They're already here." The last thing the commander saw was a human figure standing above him. No emotion, no mercy, no sound. Just a hand moving fast in darkness. Hours later, the battlefield was still. Smoke drifted in the wind. Ash covered the ground. And the only things left standing were humans. Varn stood among the wreckage. He walked past enemy corpses, shattered armor, and burned-out machines. It looked less like a battlefield and more like a message. "Don't return." The human leader approached. Varn looked at him. "You didn't speak once." "There was no need." The human replied, "We don't come to talk. We come to finish." "But how? You were outnumbered at least 20-1. The human's reply was cold and calm. "We weren't outnumbered. They were just outmatched." As the sun dipped behind the Black Mountains, the soldiers from Earth stood in formation. Silent, still. They had no flag, no anthem, no victory chant. But the message was clear to all. Humanity had arrived. And when it did, it brought monsters. Born from the deadliest world known. Asterisk darkness fell across Renthis 4 like a curtain. Fires still burned in the valley, and the enemy's wreckage glowed in the night. But the battlefield was silent now. Not with peace, but with fear. Not one human had fallen. Captain Varn couldn't sleep. He stood on the outer wall of the broken outpost, staring at the quiet forms of the human warriors. They didn't rest. They didn't talk. Some sat on rocks sharpening blades. Others stood completely still, as if waiting for a sound no one else could hear. They were strange, terrifying, and unstoppable. In the shadows beyond the ridge, the last of the enemy leaders met in secret. The survivors of the second wave had sent emergency messages across the stars. Their backup had failed. Their reinforcements were gone. And now the humans were coming. This is no longer a war, one leader growled. It is a hunt. They are Deathworlders, another whispered, trembling. I thought they were a myth. They're real, a third said, voice cold, and they've been unleashed. At dawn, the humans moved again. No signal. No warning. They walked into the jungle zone north of the outpost, a thick, wild terrain, where enemy forces were hiding, preparing one last ambush. But they didn't know humans liked bad environments. Earth wasn't kind. Earth didn't raise soft creatures. The jungle swallowed the human team, but inside the trees, something changed. The soldiers spread out, moving like ghosts. They climbed trees, crawled through vines, and attacked without sound. One enemy patrol spotted movement in the leaves. They never made it back. One was pulled up into the branches and never seen again. Another turned to run and tripped, only to find a human kneeling calmly beside him, blade already drawn. It wasn't a battle. It was a purge. At the edge of the jungle, Varn watched smoke rise and heard the faint sound of screams cut short. He turned to his officers. Tell me what you see, he asked. The technician adjusted the drone feed. They're surrounding the enemy without being detected. No radio, no light, no heat signatures. It's like they become the jungle. And the enemy? Terrified. They're not fighting back. They're running. In the jungle, the last enemy captain tried to call for retreat, but the humans had jammed their signals. He fell to his knees, gasping. We shouldn't have come here. We shouldn't have touched Earth's warpath. Then came footsteps. Soft, precise. He turned and saw the tallest human face covered, armor black as void, standing just meters away. The captain raised his hands. We surrender. The human didn't answer. He didn't even aim a weapon. He simply walked past, leaving behind only fear. Seconds later, a silent explosion ended the base behind him. That evening, the human commander returned to the outpost gates. Varn met him, trying to find the right words. They're gone, Varn said quietly. The human nodded once. You hunted them, Varn added, like prey. The human looked up at the stars. Prey fights. These ones ran. Varn frowned. Is this what Earth trains you for? Just killing? The human finally removed his helmet. His eyes were sharp but not cruel. No, he said. We're trained for survival, and when we arrive late, we make sure we finish fast. News of the destruction spread fast through the galaxy. Ships whispered it across systems. Captains warned each other. Renthis IV had called for help, but Earth hadn't sent diplomats. It had sent the Deathworlders. Asterisk. For the first time in decades, the invaders were afraid. Their leaders were gone. Their camps destroyed. Their best soldiers lost in jungles that now whispered of human footsteps. They had always fought with pride, believing no species could ever challenge them. But now, they avoided even saying the word human. Fear had a new name. Earth's Deathworlders docked in a distant warship drifting far from Renthis IV. A high-ranking enemy general received the final report. Destroyed, his advisor sighed. The second wave was eliminated in less than 2 days. And the humans? They didn't leave survivors. The general slammed a fist into the console. How did we not know Earth was capable of this? The advisor hesitated. We did know once, long ago, but the council buried those files. Fools, the general hissed. They thought humans were useful, harmless. He turned toward the stars. Prepare for retreat from nearby systems. And warn others. Do not engage Earth forces. We face something ancient. Something bred for extinction. Back on Renthis 4, Captain Varn walked the ruins of what had once been a battlefield and now felt like sacred ground. The humans had taken no trophies, made no speeches. They only stood guard, quiet and alert, like they expected more to come. Varn approached one. Of them, he couldn't tell if it was a man or woman. The armor made them look the same. Strong, silent, unreadable. Why don't you celebrate? He asked. The soldier tilted their helmet, almost curious. Varn tried again. You won. Don't your people sing? Laugh? Tell stories? The reply was flat. We're not here to celebrate. We're here to finish what others ran from. The people of Renthis 4 slowly emerged from shelters. Mothers, children, and wounded soldiers looked up at the humans with awe and fear. To them, the Deathworlders looked more machine than man. But some felt something else. Safety. A small alien child ran toward one of the warriors, slipping past guards. Everyone held their breath. The towering human looked down, motionless. The child handed the soldier a flower, a glowing native plant, tiny in her hands. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the human slowly bent down, took the flower, and nodded. Once the crowd exhaled. Varn watched in silence. Even the monsters from Earth. Still no kindness. Far away, in neutral systems, the news spread faster than any fire. They didn't just defeat the enemy, one trader said. They made them run. Deathworlders are real? A diplomat whispered. They're not just real, someone answered. They're awake now. And Earth doesn't care for politics anymore. Across the galaxy, council members argued in private. Do we reach out to them? No. We pray they don't reach out to us. On Renthis 4, the human commanders stood with Varn one last time. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke had cleared. Only ash and memory remained. Is it over? Varn asked. For you, the commander replied. But not for us. Where will you go now? Wherever someone else cries for help. The commander turned, walking back toward his ship. His warriors followed, silent, cold, and unshaken. Varn called after him. What should we tell the galaxy about you? The commander stopped for 1 second. Then, without turning, he said, Tell them fear has a new direction now. It doesn't aim at humans anymore. From that day on, the galaxy remembered Renthis 4. Not because of its beauty, not because of its value, but because it was the day fear changed sides, and when the monsters of Earth finally moved. The stars trembled. Asterisk. The enemy didn't retreat, not fully. Somewhere beyond the mountain ridge, the last alien warship landed under nightfall. It carried an elite battalion creatures, twice the size of humans, covered in dark armor, bred only for war. They had never tasted defeat. Until now. They had ignored Earth's presence. Now, they came to erase it. In the ruins of the outpost, Captain Varn watched the humans prepare. They moved with calm focus, checking weapons, scanning terrain, marking angles of approach. No one spoke, not even when the sky turned red from the landing. Fire of the enemy ship. They're sending giants. Varn said to the human commander. The man didn't look up. Good. Bigger targets. Varn blinked. You're not worried? The human finally looked at him. We don't worry. We calculate. The aliens marched down the mountain with full power. Armored walkers stomped forward. War beasts roared. Tanks rolled across broken trees. Behind it all, a towering alien commander stood in an open hovercraft, shouting to his soldiers. These humans are flesh. They bleed. They will fall. His voice echoed. The human team didn't flinch. Instead, they spread out, vanishing into the land. One climbed a broken wall, and took position with a rifle longer than his arm. Another crawled through mud toward the enemy's side. A third took off running directly toward the lead walker with nothing but 2 short blades. The battle began with fire. A plasma shell smashed the outer wall. Trees exploded. Ground cracked. But then came the reply. From the shadows, a single pulse round fired, piercing the cockpit of a walker. It toppled sideways like a dead animal. Then another shot, this one disabling the main tank's treads. Suddenly, humans were everywhere, dropping from ledges, bursting from foxholes, running straight through fire like it didn't matter. They didn't just attack, they controlled the battle. The alien commander shouted, "Hold the line!" But his soldiers were already breaking. One Deathworlder moved like lightning, jumping onto a hovercraft, planting explosives, and vanishing before the enemy even reacted. Another used a curved blade to disarm a 6-limbed warrior in 4 strikes, then knocked it cold with 1 punch. But the most terrifying moment came when one human walked straight through enemy fire. His armor melted at the edges, but he didn't stop. And when he reached the enemy line, they ran. The alien war beasts bred for death turned their backs and fled. Back at the command post, Varn watched it all unfold on live feed. He didn't cheer. He didn't speak. He just whispered, "They don't fear pain. They've trained in it." His officers stood silent. One finally asked, "How did Earth make them like this?" Varn replied, "Maybe Earth didn't make them. Maybe it forced them." The enemy's last stand didn't last long. By nightfall, their camp was burning. Their commander, the same one who roared orders earlier, was dragged from the battlefield, weaponless, armor-torn. A single human carried him, tossing him to the ground at the outpost gates. The human commander stepped forward. "You came with strength," he said coldly. "Now look at you." The alien spat. "What are you?" The commander leaned in. "We are what happens when you push Earth too far." The alien screamed and charged. A single shot dropped him. No hesitation. No cruelty. Just efficiency. The battle was done. Not one ended. The last enemy ship tried to leave orbit. It didn't make. It passed the atmosphere. A human stealth drone fired a silent missile. One light in the sky blinked out forever. As dawn broke, Earth's warriors stood over a field that had once belonged to another empire. Now it belonged to silence. An Ash. Varn walked beside the human commander. "You've done what our fleets couldn't," he said. The man replied, "That's because your fleets came to survive. Ours came to end it." Varn looked around. "And what now?" "We clean up and disappear. No monuments? No record?" The commander gave a faint smile. "We don't fight for medals. We fight so no one has to call again." The battle was over. The last fires on Rinthus 4 had gone out. The enemy was destroyed. No survivors. No retreat. No hope of return. The once busy outpost now stood still, surrounded by black soil, broken machines, and the cold silence of victory. Something else remained too. Fear. Not fear of the invaders anymore. Now it was fear of what had saved them. Captain Varn walked through the field where the final battle had taken place. Crushed weapons lay buried in the dirt. Alien manners were torn and soaked in ash. In the center stood a group of humans, still, silent, unreadable. The Deathworlders had not left yet. They never celebrated. They never raised flags. They didn't even mark their victories. They just waited, watched, like something worse was coming. Varn approached the human commander. "You could have taken the planet," he said. "No one would have stopped you." The human looked over the battlefield. "That's not why we came." "Then why did you come?" Varn asked. "You didn't need to answer our call." The commander's voice was quiet but firm. "Because someone called for help. That's enough. Varn looked at the others. And now, where will you go? Wherever the next scream comes from. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the impact of what happened on Renthis IV spread like lightning. Systems that once mocked Earth now studied them in silence. Military leaders ran simulations and lost every time the Deathworlders were added to the map. Entire governments erased old treaties and wrote new ones, always including one warning: do not provoke Earth inside a Grand Council hall on a distant world. Alien ambassadors gathered. They wiped out the entire battalion, one said, and refused to take control, another added. That makes them more dangerous, said the oldest. They don't want power. They want silence. Should we attempt contact? The room went quiet. No, someone whispered. We don't contact them. We only hope they never contact us. Back on Renthis IV, the humans began to leave. By one, they entered the same black drop pods they had arrived in. No words, no instructions. Just motion. The people they saved watched from a distance. Some clapped quietly. Some bowed. Others stood in fearful silence. Only one small child ran. Forward. Holding another glowing flower dot, she stopped in front of the human commander and raised it toward him. The warrior looked down. This time, he took off his glove, just for a moment, and accepted the flower with bare hands. His skin was scarred, rough, like stone, but the way he took the flower was gentle. The girl smiled. Thank you. He gave a small nod. Stay strong. Then he walked into the pod dot. As the last pod lifted into the sky, fire pushing it upward, Varn stood on the wall, watching them go. His officer stepped beside him. Will we ever see them again? Varn didn't answer at first dot. Then he said, only, if the galaxy makes another mistake. From orbit, a single Earthship remained behind. It hovered above Renthis IV for one final scan. Then it turned, engines lighting up dot inside. The human commander stood in the dark beside a console. His second-in-command stepped forward. Another signal received. Outer Rim. Civilian colony under siege. The commander nodded. Prepare the drop team. She hesitated. Another Deathworld mission? He stared at the screen images of burning cities, crying children, desperate messages. Yes, he said quietly. And this time, they'll know we're coming. And so it continued. The galaxy would spin. Empires would rise and fall, but somewhere, in the dark, if a call for help echoed through space, humanity would answer. And it would never come alone, Dot. It would come with the beasts, the Deathworlders. Asterisk.